to swing to Candace Owens real quick.
Her ladyship.
Want to know? Worry about it.
Let me get about nurse. So, listen. I want a best friend like Candace. Because if something happened to me, you personally, Judge, you would not go hard for me like Candace going hard for Charlie Kirk. You would not. I don't think you would. I don't think you would want to seek justice if somebody did harm to me.
I'd want to see justice done.
No, would you do what she's doing? Like, she's standing 10 toes down now.
Well, the only difference is I've seen a lot more folk die up close and personal, and known a lot of people that are no longer breathing. So it's kind of like you work in a funeral home, you get used to dead folk. The same if you work in the medical field. Well, it's not that you don't appreciate what an individual has done. It's just, it's nothing to get excited for. What happens is when you hear the siren of the ambulance, you don't say, oh my God, you say, business. Yes.
Well, she did a show today, Operation Mockingbird, Charlie Kirk plot thickens, right? And earlier today, she was tweeting out, that I was trying to find the actual tweet. She was like, listen, stay tuned because she's going to be, dropping some receipts. And this is just one of many shows to follow. So I just want to play a couple of quick clips here. Let me know if you can hear it.
The blue plane showed 60.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay. What is this? All right.
Now, okay. So you have to remember that Charlie landed into Salt Lake City at 9:23 a.m. local time. I suspect that if he had instead landed into Provo, he would have recognized the blue Egyptian plane, okay? It's not every day that you see an Egyptian military craft. It is now my well-informed opinion that he would have looked at that plane and he would have recognized the blue plane and he would have instantly realized that something was amiss. And now I'm going to explain to you very carefully why I suspect that it is highly likely that Charlie would have recognized that plane, okay? Tail number SUBND, the blue plane. A pregnant mommy sleuth who was locked into this investigation discovered something that me and my team had missed. I consider her, obviously, and all of you to be my decentralized intelligence agents. Anyway, she sent me a rather urgent email, and I'm obviously protecting her identity for reasons that are clear. But I want you to know that this discovery is due entirely to her. She is the person that in this regard went max for Charlie when I missed something. Her email stated, in effect, that I was only partially right about the plane tracking Charlie, that she had done an additional 15 hours of research and was able to discern that the person the planes were actually tracking for years was Erica. Not Charlie, but Erica was the one being tracked by these planes. And indeed, it turns out that she was correct. She discovered that between 2022 and September of 2025, both of those aircrafts, SUBTT, the yellow plane, and SUBND, the blue plane, showed 68 overlaps with Erica's documented locations, okay? 68 overlaps. I have since been able to add now 73 times that this overlapped, okay? And 29 of those instances also happened to include Charlie. Charlie was also present. And that's what I was stumbling upon when I was looking into this. I was like, why is this plane where Charlie is? The flights were majority clustered within 5 states, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Delaware, and Utah. And it's a pattern that she believes is statistically not random. I'm telling you this information has been completely verified. I am showing you this on a spreadsheet now. These are all the instances in which this plane, 68 instances that this plane crossed with Erica. And I'm also going to say this includes overseas as well, okay? So my instant question becomes, why didn't Turning Point acknowledge that this plane was familiar to them? When I was taking all of these figurative online bullets, someone could have easily said something, right? That's kind of a repeat thing in this investigation. Josh Hammer lies, I get attacked, Turning Point just stays silent. They know he's lying, but they allow the lie to flow. Alex Clark lies, I get attacked, I'm telling the truth. Turning Point knows it, but they kind of allow this like Catholic thing, lie to flow. And the influencers are allowed to lie. Nobody at Turning Point ever just steps to clarify that I'm onto something or I'm telling the truth about something. And when it comes to these Egyptian flights, the math on this is indisputable. There is less than a 0.0000000001% probability, okay, under random distribution models that these Egyptian planes coincidentally landed around Erica at these times. Like I said, this plane was not just with her in America, it was also tracking her overseas as well. I flagged this because I was alarmed because I thought it was tracking Charlie. And I am telling you that this plane, in addition to Charlie and primarily actually was tracking Erica. Now, let's get to the day of the assassination.
So,
all right, who's supposed to be the enemy here?
well, she doesn't know, but it ain't the shooter that shot him, basically. So what she's saying is TP, Turning Point USA, either they knew some stuff, or if they didn't, why are you not trying to find the truth? And what people are saying happened, it ain't adding up to what really happened, because now what Candace is doing is investigating and pulling out all these other different evidence and incidents that happened around the time he landed in Utah, and then stuff that happened before then, because come to find out, his wife, she was being tracked before he was even assassinated over 68 times. It was tracking his wife, basically, I guess, to get to him. So this wasn't just some...
Was that what it was?
Right. So what Kansas is doing is putting the pieces together. This wasn't, and proving that this wasn't just some random shooting, a disgruntled person that hated Charlie Kirk shot him that day. No, she was saying this is most likely planned.
Well, who would be the one that would be the perpetrator here?
I don't know. Probably Israel. Probably the Mossad.
Why would the Israel?
We don't know. We don't know.
He's been supporting Israel.
Well, technically, he really wasn't supporting Israel, but he wasn't against Israel. But
here's what I would offer. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Israel collaborate in their intelligence gathering in the Middle East. So it's interesting, the interconnectivity there. Egypt goes back to 1976 with Anwar Sadat and Menachem. Okay, yeah. What I was saying is back in 1976 with Anwar Sadat, Menachem Begin, with Jimmy Carter moderating, they entered into a treaty. And then you get Saudi Arabia jumping into this mix. So they collaborate on things. The Saudis and the Egyptians have cause to want to keep down extremism in the Middle Eastern area. So Israel sometimes is a vital resource in that respect. And with that understanding, Egypt and Saudi Arabia become useful to Israel and Mossad. Now, if they had an Egyptian plane that was following around, that might have been a process not of Israel or the Egyptians going after Charlie Kirk, but keeping watch on somebody who was perceived as going after him. Sometimes you might find that you've got a guardian angel over there that isn't obvious. And that might have been the situation, but if that is, then it might be worthwhile looking into to see who they were interested in.
Well, I want to play this clip here because Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and I think she mentioned someone else, have been, they haven't been threatened, but some things people are trying to cancel them. But I want to play this clip.
Other point that I'd like to follow up with, Andrew Colvett, let's stick with you, is that in the hospital on that day, you told me, you were in the hospital, that you were told that there was a credible threat against me and Tucker Carlson. Specifically, you told me that me and Tucker Carlson were on a list and that you were just telling me as a friend that me and Tucker should lay low. And after you told me that, I ended our phone call and I immediately called Tucker Carlson. And I said, hey, terrified, like obviously crying all day and telling him that he and I have to lay low because there's a credible threat. And it is now really living inside me that you did not tell me who that threat was from. I assumed the feds told you, but I asked you the question, why wouldn't the feds call me directly if there was a threat against my life? No such call has come in. How is that possible? How could someone have told you that there was a credible threat and that me and Tucker Carlson should lay low, and yet me and Tucker have since not been notified by any federal agency about those credible threats? Who do those threats come from? Because I got to tell you, there are a lot of people making videos about me and Tucker Carlson, and none of them are Egyptians, okay? In fact, it's the Israelis. It is Israel that seems deeply upset with me and Tucker Carlson. They are not letting it go. They are making threats on every stage, okay? People that are tied to Israel are making threats against me and Tucker Carlson, demanding that we be canceled. So who specifically told you in the hospital room that there was a credible threat against my life? I'm going to need that information, okay? I want to know that now.
So she is pointing a finger at Israel.
But it wouldn't make any difference. There's absolutely nothing you can do except to exercise caution. Don't be a target. Don't put yourself out in the open where you can be sniped.
That's your advice.
Nothing you can do. That's like being in a war zone. There's an enemy over there and it's going to kill you. And they have credible snipers who might be anywhere from a couple of 100 yards off to close to 1,000 meters away. And they can get you if you present yourself in a situation where you're open to direct fire. So the trick is to avoid that. Make quick movements over open spaces and always keep moving so you do not present a stationary target.
Yeah, and she always has security. Oh, 1 second, sir.
Yeah, but the security can't do anything if you're standing still and there's a clear line of fire 400 meters off, 500, 600, 800 meters away.
Mm-hmm. I don't think she's a target like that.
I don't either. I think she is a person of interest.
Yes. And because maybe she is asking too much of the right questions.
And well, that's true, but her father-in-law, who is nominally the person that's head of the English House of Lords, read the not parliamentary, but the English governmental equivalent of being over the U.S. Senate. That is an individual who is not indisposed to be favorable to Israel, at least publicly. So it wouldn't be feasible to take out the mother of his grandchildren. That might not be the best thing to do. Think about it.
She married well. I will say that. But I mean, aside from that though, the problem that I have before we move on, when you start asking the right questions, certain entities get nervous and want to shut you up.
Yeah, that happens.
And when and that's a clear indicator of you're guilty of something.
Well, it may not be that you are guilty. It's just that you have obligations to cover for other people that may be in your circle.
But you're still guilty. You're accomplice.
Well, they're not necessarily an accomplice. They may,
Oh, you get what I'm saying.
well, no, sometimes that
You
may,
are associated with the guilty party and you're willing to do their dirty.
well, no, but sometimes it's like this. You may not realize the party is guilty, or when you befriended the party, they weren't guilty. And it's a long term friendship, and you get approached as, do me a favor. And this person is well known to you over an extended period of time, and their recent conduct is bad, but prior to that there was a friendship developed, so you're put in the position of saying, as a matter of principle, I ought to reject this friendship and denounce my relationship with or disown this individual. But a lot of humans won't do that
No, they won't.
because they know the person.
Especially when you are in proximity to power or you're part of an organization that's very powerful.
See, sometimes though you don't think of it that way because
Or they're
a
paying you very
public
well.
situation where you may influence hundreds or thousands of people, millions of people, but the individuals that you deal with on a regular basis, there may be 20, 30 people, and you don't think of it that way.
All right, so I want to move on to